Hey everyone, I'm Ari here with Rachel, and we're your hosts for the Mirror Writer podcast. This week we're on episode 253, and we're asking, how do you make writer friends? Before we start, if you enjoy the show, do consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free, as we have plenty of goodies for all. If you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get you access to even more treats, or you could become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. For this, you get access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to monthly bonuses, all while helping to support our podcast. If that's not your style, but you still enjoy our podcast, then do please subscribe wherever you're listening if you haven't already, and do consider dropping us a like on YouTube. Okay, so how do you make writer friends? Stalking. It works really well. I am joking. Please don't do that. Ever. Don't do that. But let's be honest, making friends is pretty hard as an adult and as a kid as well, depending on the type of kid you are. Not everyone finds it easy to make friends. I think it's harder if you're also introverted, shy, lacking in confidence, or all of the above. But let's be honest, writers and other creatives are usually super fun people with great imaginations. So you do want to connect with them, right? And also writing is quite an isolated career or hobby. So having connections to people who understand what you're going through is kind of important, and it can help you, especially with your mental health, and just to create a bit of a support system. So I'm going to use the main one, which is blogging. And I say this after having a massive rant with Rachel about how annoying the blog systems and platforms have been recently. But honestly, it has worked the best. Most people I have connected to online and become friends with, I actually met through my blog. You know, I've mentioned this before, that Rachel and I met through blogging. Several of our guests, such as Wilmar Luna, KM Allen, Darlene Foster, all of these have been met through blogs. My beta readers are also via blogs. I think the reason blogging can actually work is it gives you a space that you can make your own. You can share your thoughts, and better still, you can actually go and visit like-minded blogs. Yes, if you're on a platform that does blogging, such as WordPress or Blogger, it makes it easier to find other blogs on those platforms. You can select things you're interested in, like writing, podcasting, art, history, and it will then show you other blogs. I say this as someone who started a blog in 2013 and can't remember how I managed to find blogs. So Rachel, you might need to jump in case I'm doing this all wrong. I'm sure that's how you did it.
Yeah, no, because it's all the tags and the categories. I think those are the words you're looking for. Because I started my blog in 2012, and to be honest, I can't remember that far back either. But yeah, you would go on the Reader or just WordPress.com or wherever your platform was, and you would type in certain tags or categories, and it would pop up with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if Reader would only show you blogs that you'd followed, in which case you had to find them first, or whether there was an option to sort of like surprise me or explore. I think there was Explorer where you could go on and it would show blogs that were on that platform. Is that right? That sounds familiar.
Yes. Yeah. The Reader, I think, is just your subscriptions and follows. But there's also like a separate Explore thing on the Reader that you can just type in whatever you want, whatever topic you want, and it'll suggest stuff.
Yeah, and then what we found is like you'd go onto there, you'd click those, you'd look at other people's blogs, and then you might find other writers by their comments. So you might read the blogs, you might like them, follow them, and then if you go down to that blogger's comment section, you might find other writers answering and leaving comments, and you could then click on their names and find new blogs that way. And honestly, I think it is a useful way. It isn't a kind of put some content up and leave it and people will find you. You have to be proactive. You know, you have to create great, interesting content. You have to leave thoughtful comments. You can't just go and follow a load of blogs and hope people follow you back. You need to be engaging in an interesting way. You know, I have seen people where it's like, oh, hi, I like your blog. Will you like my blog? Or this is great. And that's it. Every comment is just, this is great. That comes across like you aren't really that interested. So there's a kind of do's and don'ts for blogging. Don't ask someone via a comment to like and follow your blog. That sounds desperate. Do make sure you leave genuine comments about reading their content. Don't just leave generic comments because you didn't read their content, but you're just hoping that they'll visit your blog because you visited theirs. Don't try and force friendships by leaving comments all at once and acting kind of stalkerish. Like if you go and leave a comment on like 10 different articles on one blogger all at once, it can feel a little overwhelming. Do consider hosting them as a guest. Reach out to them on their contact page or on the comments and ask if they'd consider being a guest. And if they do say yes, and then they want to reciprocate, consider saying yes. It's these kind of interactions that can really build up connections that turn into friendships. It's not a quick thing. No one's saying, oh, I make friends really quickly. It's not a quick thing, but it's a good way to kind of get a feel for other people and for them to get a feel for you by sharing your content on your blog and sharing who you are through your blog, whether it's sharing some of your stories or interviews or book reviews or just random thoughts of the day. It can all help to kind of create those connections that you're looking for that start friendships.
I agree with everything that Ari said, and I just want to add another do not when it comes to comments. Do not add links in your comments, please. It is super annoying, and it feels like you've only clicked on that person's article because you wrote a similar article. And I've gotten those comments so many times where they're like, oh, great article. I wrote one about this topic here. Check it out. And then they leave a link to the article on their website. And it just feels weird. It's like, were you actually interested in this topic and you were interested in my opinion? Or were you just finding a like-minded topic and was like, oh, I can try to get this person to give me a view as well. It's just weird. Please don't do it. But blogging in general, it is a really great way to make writer friends, especially this day and age when everybody's on the internet. And I don't think blogging is as popular as it used to be back in the day. When I started my blog in 2012, everybody had a blog. Everybody and their mother had a blog. And I feel like the engagement was more genuine and it was more abundant. There were a lot of people liking posts and commenting and sharing, reblogging onto their own websites. And I feel like people just aren't on their blogs that much anymore, but it's not dead, if that makes any sense. It is still a very prominent thing. It's just not as much as it used to be. But blogging is still important. And if you can have a blog on your website and keep it updated consistently, even if it's just once a week or once every other week, please do it, because it is a really great way to create connections and engage with other writers and readers too, if you're looking for fellow bookworms.
That's a really good point, yeah. Especially if you talk about your writing journey or your writing story, readers might be interested to know about the backstory of that, and then they can start reaching out for more things. But yeah, obviously I think you need to be interested in blogging, and so you can create content, and it doesn't have to be long content. I know there was a time a couple of years ago where it's like the big thing of blogging was long 4,000 word content. It's like, no, that's not a thing anymore. So you can just do small things and it can still be quite a good method. And yes, God, links. Why do people do that? Leave links in their comments. I always remember once I wrote an article and then somebody reached out and went, oh my gosh, I really loved your article. I have also written an article about this. Do you mind adding my link to the bottom of your article? And it's like, first of all, I don't know who you are. You don't even follow my blog. You haven't left me any comments other than that. And you're not telling me what you're going to give in, like what's the reciprocation I get. If I add your link to my blog, I am sending my readers off my blog. There needs to be something worth my while to do that. Don't mind doing it for like guests that I've hosted because I chose to have guests on, and I don't mind sending them off to their blog. But the audacity of someone being like, hey, do me this favor. I know you don't know me and I'm not going to do anything for you, but hey.
Backlinks drive me nuts as well. If you Google how to promote your blog, and you'll find articles upon articles on how to market your website and things like that. And almost on every single one of those lists, there will be a point to reach out to other bloggers and their websites, send them an email and ask for them to backlink to your website. No. Please do not do that. And I know it works for some people, and there are probably people out there that don't mind that. And they'll just say, yeah, if I leave a backlink to your website, please leave a backlink to mine. And I mean, if they work it out that way, that's fine. Personally, I don't like that. I am not big into cold pitching. I am not big into reaching out to strangers and being like, hey, could you do me this favor? Nah, no, thank you. I'll get off my high horse now.
But that's it. It's like, the audacity of that. I mean, we struggled sometimes reaching out to people saying, hey, would you like to be hosted as a guest on our podcast, on our blog? We want to do this for you because we want people to know about you and your work. And it's hard to do that. And yet other people are out there going like, I'm going to ask favors of people who don't know me.
Exactly.
Boggles the mind. Okay, so we're going to move to the next one, which obvious is social media. And I know, bane of my existence, I really hate social media, but you can't get away from the fact that the word social is built right in. It's kind of an important thing. And when we ran the Mirror Writer hashtag game over on Twitter, at its height, I do believe we had over 50 people playing the game once, which I think it got so crazy, which is why it was like a month. And then I brought Rachel in because it was like, I can't manage this on my own. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger until it hit over 50. So you can get quite decent engagement with people. Now we came up with something interesting, something silly, something thought-provoking, questions that really got people to want to answer them. And then they would share their answers. And then what you'd find is they were talking in the comments with each other because somebody would leave an answer and someone else would be like, oh my God, I feel the same way, or something like that. And we found that a lot of people in the game connected with each other. And then we found out like, oh, these two people who've never met are now writing a book together, or these two people are now doing beta reads for each other. So there are interesting ways that you can connect people. And the fact we managed to do that with a silly hashtag game is really nice. It's one of the things I liked the most about starting the game. And again, many of our podcast guests came from the hashtag game, and we have continued to connect with these people on social media. So remember, it's not just about liking and following. Same with the blogging, it's about engagement. You have to engage with them. And like you would do with a friend you meet the first time at school, you can ask questions, but don't bombard them with questions. It's not an interrogation, And I will put one quick caveat. What you see on social media is often curated. So don't assume everything that's visible is who that person is. We are all very complex humans and lots going on, and we've got multifaceted lives. No one owes you their time, their energy, or anything. So if you reach out and ask questions and try and connect with people, if you ask if they want to be guests and they say no or they don't reply, that's your answer. Don't push people. If they want to be friends, it will happen. If they don't, that's okay. Nobody needs to be friends with anybody else if they don't want to be. But it always comes back round to engagement. What sort of comments are you leaving? Are you making thoughtful comments, or is it just heart, great, nice? The best ones are ones that can have a little bit of a conversation where maybe you'll respond to something they've put and you can ask them another question, or you can move the conversation forward and then they might share something else. So you might say, oh, I agree with this. This is what happened to me. And then they may come back and go, oh, wow, I didn't know that could happen, blah, blah, blah. It's not always easy. I'm not saying it's easy, especially if you find making conversation difficult. I do find it a little bit easier online. I think most people do. Right? Or am I just talking into the wind?
No, I can agree with that. It is easier online. And I think with social media, the whole purpose of social media is to be social, and therefore you have to engage. And that doesn't necessarily mean just liking everybody's status or picture or reel or whatever. You should go into the comments and create a conversation, because their post is what starts the conversation. And if you have a reply to that, that's not just, hey, I like your picture, very nice. Like if you have something meaningful to say, then yeah, you should absolutely say it. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody that you know or somebody you don't know, like you're creating those connections, and it's all networking. And hopefully that person, after you have a little bit of a back and forth conversation, maybe they'll go onto your profile and find something that catches their eye of, your photo. Like if we're talking about Instagram, for example, they may comment on that. And then, you make a new friend that way, and you'll start following each other, and you never know, anything could turn into anything pretty much.
I think with social media, by the way, that's 100% right. Yeah. I think with social media, it's very much intention. I think you have to be intentional. And the reason I say that is because most of social media, if you take away Threads and Twitter, is visual. Pictures, videos, reels, things like that. And the problem is, depending on what that picture or that reel or that video is, the information might be in the caption. And we've talked about this. So many people don't read the caption. So it's more of you see a visual, oh, I like that, push it on. See another visual, push it on. Whereas with a blog, most blogs are text-based. So you're already coming in expecting to read text, read it, and leave a comment. With social media, it's so visual that you have to be intentional about going in and reading the caption. What is that person saying? I mean, I have read comments where someone has obviously posted something and then the caption has been this heartbreaking, oh my gosh, you won't believe this happened. And people have been like, oh my God, great photo. Because they saw the picture and didn't read the caption and didn't get that what the picture was showing was actually something devastating, because obviously maybe it was a photo of a car that they'd bought for someone in their family who had then passed away, and that, oh, sweet ride, and it's like, oh, ouch, you missed it. So if you are going to use social media, take the time to read the captions, read the room with it, so you don't say the wrong thing. And what I find is if you can set an alarm for like 10-15 minutes and then use that time to go through your social media feed intentionally and with care, every other time scroll away, do your doom scrolling, just scroll and like. But a few times a week, go in with intention of reading things, of looking at the pictures and watching the videos all the way through. I think that works better.
I have to add to that and say that when you do post on social media, again, I'm going to use Instagram as an example. Don't post a picture and then have a caption that has nothing to do with each other. Because I think that's part of the problem too. I think that's part of the reason why many people don't read the captions. Obviously, it's very easy to just scroll through all those photos and double tap to like them. But if you see like this really cool photo and then you go into the caption and they're trying to sell you something that has nothing to do with whatever the photo is, like maybe they posted a picture of their cat and they're like, hey, I created this course about, I don't even know what, I don't know. And they're trying to sell you something. It doesn't match. And then it feels sleazy and it's misleading and it's just not nice. So please don't do that. That's all I gotta say. I feel like most of my comments are very negative and I apologize, but just throwing out all the do nots. Don't do this, don't do that.
It's because we hate social media, and it's just, there's got to be better ways to do it. But unfortunately, that's the platforms we've been given.
I was just going to say, this is probably why I don't have very many friends.
Thing is, back in day, we had like community groups and things and forums, nice forums that weren't full of weirdos. Well, obviously, there's always some weirdos, but now it's all social media and all the weirdos are on there with us.
That is true. That is true. It's hard now. I mean, it always was hard, but I feel like it's even harder these days.
Unfortunately, with social media, you are dealing with the addiction level, because I don't care what anyone says, there have been studies, people are addicted. And when you're addicted and you find that you haven't got the focus and the attention span, it is quicker to doom scroll and just scroll, rather than taking a moment and thinking, I'm going to read this comment, I'm going to read this caption, I'm going to leave something thoughtful. And it doesn't have to be on everything. It needs to be on things, on people's pages that you want to leave comments for. Don't be like, I'm going to leave all the comments on everything. It's like, you don't have to do that.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, even like with Instagram Reels and stuff, if there's like a 30-second reel after like, I don't know, 10 seconds, I'm ready. I'm like trying to force myself to like retrain your attention span and watch the full 30 seconds. Unless it's something that I'm really not interested in, the algorithm thinks I am, I'll keep scrolling. But for the most part, yeah, our attention spans are bad now.
Terrifying, actually. I need to start working on mine, because I've started skipping the beginning parts of movies, and that's bad. Movies I've seen, not movies, new movies. I'll be watching Netflix and I'll be like, oh, I'll move on to the inciting incident. It's like, wow, I would never do that.
Oh my God.
But it's almost like
wow.
Yeah. And I love my movies, and but I found myself doing it. I actually had to sit down. I watched Spectral yesterday, and I've watched it loads of times. I like Spectral. And the last time I watched it, I remember skipping ahead to the action, and it was like, why did I do that? So I made myself sit and watch it. And then I realized the beginning part is just as enjoyable. But I blame the addiction and the lack of attention. Ooh, yeah, gotta watch out for that. Anyway, let's not talk about my bad decisions and move on. Another place is groups. Places such as Facebook that have like groups that you can join. I'm a little bit more tentative with things like this, because I think you have to be very careful of what the group is and the number of people and the rules on it, because you can get somewhere, anyone can say anything, and then you get a lot of like controversy or political talk, which can then divide people very quickly. Whereas if you find certain groups that are very niche, say you wanted to go to a crochet group, and there are rules about, no politics, no religion, and it keeps things a bit friendlier, that works. But I have joined a few groups in the past on Facebook. I'll be honest, I've usually left them because it starts out good, and then something will happen, and then someone will say something, and it just spirals. But I'm sure there are still some groups out there that can be useful. So just go with care, tread carefully when joining groups. If you want something in real life, I know, all the introverts just took a big deep breath and had a little panic. Book clubs and writing clubs. Check local art centres and libraries. I think they're the best places where they usually list them. And if there aren't any, consider starting one. You could put an advert in the paper, you could put an advert on the library, and you could just create a little one. And I know as I say that, even I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I could do that. But sometimes you have to move out your comfort zone if you want to do something different, if you want to make friends and connections. It's like if you want to be a writer and you want to be a success, you have to share your book. You have to maybe go to book signings, maybe go on podcasts and things like that.
We're just scaring everybody away now. But yeah, no, I do agree. I think joining a book club or writing club IRL is a really good idea. And I am a little bit biased because I joined one years and years ago at my local library. And unfortunately, it died with COVID, but it ran for a good 5 years. And I still keep in touch with pretty much everybody. Well, not everybody, but like the staples, because we had some people come and go in those 5 years. But the staples, I'm still very much good friends with them still. And I see them like 1 to 2 times a month for gaming. And we still talk about writing and things like that. So yeah, it's a great way to not only, when it comes to making writer friendships, it's not just online. You can branch out and find like-minded people in real life and get yourself out of the house a little bit. And again, I know that sounds scary for introverts and things like that, but writing is a lonely endeavor. So yeah, push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit and meet some people in real life.
Exactly. The thing is, that's the best way of doing it. And it is horrible. It is horrible, but I don't know. I mean, you could lurk around bookstores in the section that you really like, and that way if someone comes over, you could just like start up a conversation about your favorite story in that. Obviously, don't stand in the bookshop for like 4 hours waiting for people to come round. Again, we're touching on stalker behavior. Don't do that. But yeah, I mean, it is weird because I know as we're saying some of this, even I'm like, oh God, that's a bit too much. But the thing is, if you want to try new things, if you want to get new friends, if you want to build connections, you got to get through that discomfort. You got to take the first step. You got to reach out, say hi. I know, I get it. I feel you as I'm saying this, but you've got to let those friendships develop organically. You got to give it space. You know, I know that's hard, especially when you start connecting with people and, you know, you start having really good conversations. It can be like, oh, wow, I've made a friend. And it depending on the type of person you are, you can sometimes go all in. And it can scare people away. So you just need to take things slowly and just, yeah. I'm not even sure where I'm going with this, but yeah, just try. Worst case, you don't make a friend. People respond and then leave it and you never hear from them again. That's not the end of the world, but at least you've tried. And I say this as someone who hated talking to people, hated reaching out, very introverted, very shy. And now I'm on a podcast with someone in America who I met online and we talked to guests. You know, if I could manage that, you can go out and make some friends.
It's easier because it's online though, too. If we were doing this live and we had to meet with guests like once a month in person, I probably would have quit by now.
I think we'd use a cafe as a base to like go in and have a cup of tea, coffee, and a nice cake to kind of ease the path. Maybe that would help. But yeah, no, I don't think I could have done it in real life.
That would be a good idea, but also that'd be more work.
Yeah,
I'm very tired.
But yeah, let's just simple things. Be willing to put yourself out there. Be willing to try. That's all it is. And especially try online is the easiest way to start. Do respect other people's responses and boundaries that people put up. Don't push. And be engaging and be genuine. Don't pretend to be somebody else. Don't pretend to be something you are not. Just let it happen naturally. Okay? Okay, but with all that, we're going to end this because it's already gone on long enough. Before we leave, if you want to learn more about us, the podcast, and opportunities to be a guest on the show, don't forget to check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. We'll turn it over to you guys. How do you make writing friends? Let us know your answers in the comments so we can chat about it. Remember, we do release new episodes every Wednesday. Next week, Rachel is interviewing me about my work. That's going to be awful. To ensure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button on your way out. As always, thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you next week. This podcast is brought to you by Writing Goals, We Set Too Many. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.